Quick one, nothing here is financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research or speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode and like and subscribe.
Welcome back, everyone. Founder series. We've got 2 of them from Amsterdam. Really interesting protocol project, and I'm pretty sure it's already as a business. Colby and Oliver, thank you for joining.
Thanks
Founders.
for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Of Open Tickets.
Yeah.
You guys definitely wear your hearts on your sleeve from what I can see, and obviously very suited for the festival music and ticket sales scene. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting discussion as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So, I mean, like we've had the craziness of this bull cycle. Obviously, things are chilling, which I think is actually a blessing in disguise because we went through that bear market, built things, and then we kind of like let it run free. But now it's nice to take a break. You guys have had quite a long journey. Tell us about. I don't know if you want to kind of alternate between the 2 of you, but like. How did it start? What, why, when, like why this and why move from traditional ticketing system to Web3? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll start. The story there is we started in 2016. Basically our founder, Maarten, CEO, currently still, worked at the Dutch Central Bank as a lawyer, so kind of the polar opposite of everything Web3. But he was listening to a podcast about all the issues that are plaguing the ticketing industry, stuff that everyone knows about, lack of trust, people screwing over other people, everyone taking profit except the person that deserves it. While he was also studying this upcoming new tech, specifically smart contracts and how they can sort of standardize processes and eradicate a bunch of the opaque problems that plague a lot of industries. And he thought this makes a lot of sense. He Googled blockchain ticketing and it popped up nothing of substance. So not much later he quit his job and started what was then called Get Protocol, which we rebranded to Open, which we'll touch on probably. From a very naive, I dare say, standpoint of let's just fix this should be possible. And that's how we got into it. And basically the first mission was let's just eradicate scalping. Very straightforward problem, should be easy to fix. Weirdly enough, it was. We actually solved that quite quickly in a Web 2.5 solution where we basically merged the primary and the secondary point of sale for tickets. But yeah, we also figured out, okay, there's actually a lot more to this industry. There's actually tons of politics, tons of sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes. People making money in ways no one really understands. So there's a lot more to do. And we kind of started from there and discovered that while it's a crazy industry, the actual tech that blockchain brings and Web3 brings is very, very suitable for solving the problems that actual everyday consumers have still to this day.
Yeah, and it was very much, I think, in the beginning, sort of build the plane while flying it, like we very much had to go to market with our own ticketing company called Guts Tickets here in the Netherlands. That's kind of grown to being one of the top 5 ticketeers here. But that was like kind of the strategy of, okay, let's make it as easy and as accessible as possible in the front end and kind of load in all of the blockchain benefits in the background and slowly over time kind of bring them into fruition. And we got actually very lucky. Like it was quite a funny story where we got a big artist, Joep van Hek, and we kind of slid a message under his door saying, okay, ticketing is fucked up, right? Here's this solution, and it actually works. And he jumped on board as an advisor, really helped us. He did all of his ticketing through Guts, and we got another comedian on board, Jochen Meyer, who just loved it. There was like a Decrypt article in 2017, how he just said, I've solved scalping with these guys. So that was really, the core mission, just like eliminate it. it's crazy, to be honest, that still even exists, right? Like the technology is there across the whole space, even in the Web2 side, dare I say it, the Web3 just adds on top of it. So yeah, it's been a journey since then, really. And we grew out Guts, we built the protocol layer, and then we kind of allowed other ticketeers to sort of build on top of it. So we took like this full ticketing suite that we built with Guts and then allowed other ticketeers to use that. And at the same time, the blockchain layer, like larger ticketeers and event organizers can tap into that just purely for like the NFT issuances. So it's kind of a best of both worlds, really. We can like go quite deep into independent artists and organizers and help them out with everything. We do like the Ziggo Dome here in Amsterdam. So that's about 18 to 20,000 attendees. We do that every month, basically, with Web 2.5 ticketing. And we've done that since, when is it now? I think 2019 that we started with the Ziggo Dome. So yeah, like it's the proof is in the pudding. And we've really, we've been kind of just heads down over the last 7 years building infrastructure, basically. And now is the time we really want to align the Web3 space around this use case, because we feel like it's a killer use case. We've kind of proved it to millions of tickets already. And now it's time to shout about it and get people aligned. So yeah, it's been a cool journey.
Yeah.
So you completely like have already stolen the show, just by the way. Like it's kind of like normally when I sit down and chat to people about what it is that they're doing in crypto and Web3, it's like it's an idea that's formulated and now it needs to be put into play. And here we have exactly the opposite, and it's like it really does kind of like speak to where we need to get to. It's like I've been saying it like over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been saying we need to talk about businesses as opposed to protocols and projects. And here we have a business. And then you've made my job even more difficult by presenting me with probably 50 different topics of discussion. So thanks, guys. Thanks for that. So I might as well just throw my notebook away now and just try and wing it from this point onwards. But seriously, it's really cool to see that, like, this is a long-term business. I would assume that it's successful. You mentioned before the interview that you guys have got 40 people working in the team, and that's seriously like cool. Like obviously there's a whole lot of problems. So I want to start off with understanding what the problems are within ticketing. And you spoke about scalping, and so for those of us, including me, who don't know what that is, can you just explain like what are the fundamental problems that are present in ticketing at the moment that essentially you guys are solving, and where is the value proposition in that?
For sure. Yeah, so I think it's good to start with, there's two prongs, I would say. There's kind of opaqueness in the ticketing industry from the actual ticketeers, and then there's external scalping just as a whole, right? Let's touch upon external scalping. I mean, the obvious one is, say, a Taylor Swift concert, right? You're sitting in line 5 hours, tickets go up on sale, all of a sudden they're all sold out, and then you jump onto the secondary market and you're paying 10x the price, right? And there's a bunch of problems around that, obviously, right? You have literally scalpers who sit there with like hundreds of credit cards, they have it all automated, and they whip it up in a bot and buy them all up. And then in some cases, you even have ticketeers that just withhold them from the primary market altogether, right? There's famous cases, I think it was a Justin Bieber tour, actually, like many years ago, where like 30% of all tickets were just not put up on the primary. They were just straight up put on the secondary, because obviously it's way more profitable. Why would you put them up on the primary? So those are the core issues, really. It's opaqueness. It's the ability to just scalp and make a ton of profit and kind of weaponize the relationship between fans and artists. And also it's the lack of control and revenue and data for artists and organizers. Ultimately, like, they are the ones who should have the monopoly, right? Like, they're the creator, they're the people that, the reason why fans pay so much money to see. And ultimately, the power shift is just completely in the wrong direction. The power shift sits with ticketeers, and they've built this monopoly over time. You don't have to really look that far to see it over the last 40 years, how it's crept in. You start as a ticketeer, you then become a venue owner, you then do financing, you then become a promoter, and eventually a ticketeer is just the whole stack. And as an artist or organizer, especially a small or a medium artist, what can you do, really? You have to basically just fight an uphill battle until you all of a sudden get enough critical mass and have a fan base to where you can make your own demands. But the system is just set up against you. So that's really like the key piece. We just see blockchain technology in general being a solution for almost all, like if not all of these problems, from a financing standpoint, from the actual transparency and the ability to eliminate scalping. So yeah.
I think independence is a big word for it, because of course you've got the A-listers that we all know and that grab the headlines, that are very clear examples of the challenges with scalping, because the fan connection is so strong. It doesn't matter the price point, people are going to want to go, so they can be they're just very vulnerable to the whims of malicious people. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is sort of the 95% of artists and creators that don't instantly sell out arenas, but that do want to advance their careers and make moves and slowly sort of pave the way and get there. That have a really, really tough time doing so, which are vulnerable in their own way. So if you're a up-and-coming artist that wants to put on a show for 300 people, you need money up front to book a venue, you need production costs, all that stuff. And that's where, if they don't have that money themselves, that's where traditionally now these bigger companies come in and say, hey, looks like you need 20 grand. Why don't you sign this contract, and then we'll figure out how you pay me back over the next 3 years, but you can only do shows in my venue. So it's a very, that to our shock, it's an insanely sort of sharky industry on that side. And the financing side of things is even way bigger than we thought initially. So these are very clear problems that we're looking to solve. So on the ticketing side, we have just a very straightforward, very transparent ticketing process where the consumer can sort of verify the ticket they have. They can see their on-chain history of the ticket. They can see whether it's been resold for what price, etc. That helps them feel way more comfortable, and they go to one single place. They don't go to 3 different sites and then sort of get scammed along the way, potentially. On the financing side, there's really, really cool stuff that we're about to launch, where we're just coupled with our on-chain tickets. So we use on-chain tickets for shows as a type of collateral that an artist can put up in order to essentially, crowdfund their way to this amount of money that they need to put on the show. Then once the show goes on sale, everyone who's sort of chipped in their stables to make it happen earns back their crowdfunded portion plus a little bit of yield. And that way we can help them sort of circumvent this sort of sharky death trap that they otherwise have no choice but taking, and which I understand, which is fine, which is business. But we feel, we want to try and sort of help these artists not have to sell their soul to be successful.
Yeah, and I think it's good to add on there that like there really is no other option, like to be completely transparent.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like these large ticketing companies, they have billions on their balance sheet that they can actually put towards financing. What is the other only alternative to actually attract billions in TVL, right? It's the blockchain. You don't have to look far to see DeFi protocols attract $1 billion plus in a month, even. What it takes a ticketeer years, decades to even attract and then use. So it's a huge opportunity. And we believe it's a freeing moment, to be honest. Absolutely, for artists and organizers. So pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really like that bit about being able to obviously empower artists through a community. It's essentially a crowdfunding exercise, right? So it's kind of like, we need 50 grand, want to run an event. Essentially, you then place a bet on whether that event is going to be successful and whether it's going to bring in revenue. In terms of kind of like the dynamic around that, because just kind of zoning in on, there's 50 grand that's needed to do an event, and if the profits were not sufficient around, obviously, to pay back people, how does that dynamic work, and how do you actually avoid people from being unhappy around that in that situation?
Yeah,
I mean, is there a way, or is that just kind of the speculative market?
It's a good question. Yeah, there's a couple of ways you can do it. So we've really thought long and hard about this, obviously, because especially if it's the first event or the first pool for an artist, you don't want, you know, a negative feeling to happen if it doesn't go through. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it based on multiple events to spread out the risk, right? It could be for an organizer or for a specific ticketeer or even an artist across multiple events. So you can kind of spread the risk. You can also have insurance pools, of course, right? So you have this other DeFi element where you have insurance that backs all of the pools and can pay out in the case that like one doesn't go through. So we're really thinking about these kind of mechanisms. But I think the most important thing is, of course, we want to specify that this isn't, you know, without risk, right? It's more about if you really believe the artist and you want to help them, then you can contribute stables. But like anything, indeed, like this is taking a chance, of course, on the artist or organizer. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where their history is so important. So we really try to emphasize. We get a lot of interest now for the event financing, obviously, because it looks like a clear avenue to financing. What we try to convey is that the more of an on-chain track record they have, just by doing tickets through any of our tech or anything similar, the bigger sort of the chance that people will participate, because they can just point to, hey, I did these and these and these. I've sold out 100K tickets on chain already. I'm gonna be able to book that 1,200 packs venue. So that's an angle to it, and then also kind of depending on that track record, the yield adjusts accordingly. So if it's super risky, of course the yield's going to be higher. If it's a shoe-in for whatever, let's say, I don't know, Coachella that was just happening, or things that sell out and are known to sell out, then the yield will be lower, obviously. So yeah, that's kind of the parameters that exist, and at the end of the day, of course, people need to understand that you're earning yield. There is a risk involved. But it should be quite transparent, and our objective is to provide as much sort of relevant data around that so folks can make an informed decision on whether they want to participate or not.
Okay, so just stepping back a little bit and kind of like looking at the business, you know, in its kind of like an eagle's eye view of the business. So you've mentioned like bits about it. So let's just look at it from the top down or bottom up, depending on the way that you want to present it. What are the different almost categories or facets of the business that you guys have got right now, and give us like that eagle's eye view, what it looks like. And then the second part of the question is like, what do those revenue streams look like, and how does that tie in to obviously the blockchain and obviously the open ticket token that you guys have created, the dynamic and all that. So it's a bit of a big question, but I think we're ready to tackle it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good way to do it. Yeah.
That's a fun part of being an actual business and having done so for 7 years. I'm happy to take that one. So there's a couple layers indeed. So we have our own ticketing company, as Colby said, Guts Tickets. That's one of the top 5 ticketing companies here in the Netherlands. So that's operating, generating revenue, doing I don't know how many tickets a year now, several 100,000. So that's its own business model that we run and operate here. We use that also as a proof of concept, because the things that we're developing and ideating on, we feel like we can push out a Medium blog and sort of hope that people use it, but we'd much rather actually do it ourselves and then show people like, hey, this is how we did it. If you want to try, here's the tech. So that's one side of it, and then we have the more protocol side, where we really want to just take as many big organizations on chain as we can, take the inventory on chain, get them thinking about, hey, what can we do in Web3, and how can we make that very cool? So we have some really big ticketing companies that are already experimenting a little bit, just putting their inventory on chain, making a track record, etc. That's a business model. It's a tiny business model right now, kind of by choice. We really want to make that as frictionless as possible. We see a lot of value in, we put a lot of time into getting these bigger organizations, these kind of legacy operations from 0 to 1. So we feel as long as they just get their start and start comfortable with doing something on Web3, we kind of dress it down initially. We really try to speak their language. We're not going full tech heavy. Let's all download MetaMask together and then do stuff like that. We're really making it very simple, speaking their language, talking about fan engagement, talking about the revenue down the road. So that's also a source of revenue for the protocol that actually flows back also to the DAO that we have. That's another interesting entity that has some serious firepower, and also for every ticket sold, our DAO earns revenue, which we feel is pretty darn cool. Let's see. Yes, so that's that, and then on the token side, we have our token OPN, which has its core use case is also that for every ticket issued by anyone building on top of our tech stack, they need OPN to issue these tickets as a type of fuel. So let me say anything.
Yeah, no, and so basically, I guess the core revenue model for the protocol really is anytime tickets need to be issued, ticketing integrators top up OPN, as Oliver mentioned. They do that either via the open market or they invoice us and we do it for them. The cool thing about that is that OPN goes into an event contract, right? And then when tickets are sold, we basically assign that OPN and they flow through smart contracts. And then when the tickets are scanned, that's when the OPN is released to stakers, to the DAO. So that kind of completes the event lifecycle then. So it's quite actually really fun. You could be in bed and then there's a big concert happening somewhere, and then you're actually earning yield basically as a staker of OPN, which has real cash flow. So that's quite exciting. And then one other thing really to add on top was just we've also taken what Guts has done and allowed other ticketers to do that, right? So that's more of the full suite, basically. It can be anything from, we've worked in the past with Neo, the R&B singer from America. He does meet and greets, and he uses basically that stack to do those meet and greets. So that's kind of the infrastructure layer. I also really want to quickly just touch upon the benefits from the event lifecycle perspective, because I think that's quite a fun one. We kind of see it as pre, during, and post-event, right? So pre-event, the cool thing there is, again, like the financing. That's really the biggie. Being able to lock those tickets up as collateral before they're sold, have the financing opportunity. But also, you even have the ability to connect with fans, right? Because once they purchase a ticket, you can quite literally use that as a connector piece. You can go into a Discord, you can go into Shopify, you can use it as an authenticator, right, digitally. And then during, you've got all of the transparency. So we have an Explorer. You can jump on there and see real-time ticket stats basically around the world, which is quite fun. And then post-event, you can connect with fans. You can actually use that ticket. It doesn't jump into the trash, right, like a PDF. It actually evolves into a collectible. You can have really cool art tied to it. You can even have clips of the event, music, etc. And you can use it as this lasting connection piece between the artist and the fan that always lasts forever. Say you do an event next year, you can actually target those people who've been to that event, buy the NFTs they hold, and then say, hey, you get early discount or whatever it may be. So
I think that also ties into one area I forgot to mention, which is something we're really proactively working on getting into the minds of big organizers, which is sponsorship. Event sponsorship is a massive industry in and of itself. And we're trying to open avenues, like Colby said, there's a visual for every ticket on chain. That's a perfect opportunity for adding sponsorship opportunities to your event, by of course adding utility there, but also it's a good branding opportunity. I think most people in crypto have seen the types of numbers that are floating around for big sort of sponsorship opportunities around big events. It's serious money. It's no different for Web2 sports. That's real money that's circulating in there, and providing a new avenue of introducing that is a serious business model, really big opportunity that we're seeing, that we need to show people first a couple of times before that becomes a serious moneymaker. But we see insane room for growth there as well.
So, I mean, one of the big problems with Web3 right now, and particularly with DeFi, is obviously the accessibility. You know, it's kind of like it really isn't easy. We've spoken about this at dinner tables, in Discords, in Telegrams. It's like it's a topic of, obviously, like, it's the biggest barrier to entry. How are you guys facilitating that process? Because I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something we really pride ourselves on. I always say it's like on-chain ticketing is so easy, even your grandma can use it, right? Like you can actually put a wallet into someone's hand the second they purchase a ticket. So we worked actually particularly in this last bear market basically on all of the behind-the-scenes wallets, whether it was actually putting them into the applications we build, having all of the authentication so you can do all of the signing of transactions without the user needing to know about it. So it's literally the second you purchase that ticket with a debit card in euro, dollars, whatever it is, we create that ticket on chain behind the scenes. You see it as a QR code, etc. But then you get a wallet as well, and that's tied to you. The plan is to allow you to eventually, if you really want to custodial that, you can, but we, obviously hide that away. But then, yeah, you just see it as a really simple flow, right? You see this locked QR code in the beginning. You can sell it on the primary or secondary. It then unlocks into a rotating QR code. When you scan it, you then get a collectible, which you see as this cool piece that evolves post-event as well. And then it's as simple as having like a collectible gallery, right? Where you just look through all of the tickets that you've had from past events. And then the cool thing is you can have a button that takes you into an on-chain experience. So whether it is, hey, jump into this digital metaverse by the click of a button, you can do that, and we do all of the authentication behind the scenes. So that's really how we just see that accessibility happening. It needs to be based on what the organizer or artist wants to happen. We had a pretty cool use case with a theme park here called the Efteling, where they basically they shut down a theme park ride, Spoke Slot, and they wanted to rebuild it in the metaverse. So they did a whole 3D point scan of the whole thing, put it into a metaverse, and then had it so you needed to be an employee to actually get in with like a key. And then they just distributed tickets for it. And then it was like a click of a button, you go in and then you connect and you're into this experience. So yeah, it's complexity behind the scenes is kind of our motto, really.
Yeah, and that's really the only way to do it. So this is kind of a standard talking point for us, but it's also kind of a pain point because there's a weird split between people. Everyone understands in Web3 that ticketing is maybe the use case that will help onboard everyone into what we already know and love. But the approach and sort of finding a good way to actually connect with the folks in the Web2 space is a lot trickier than you might think, because there's just a lot of really boring, tangible, real world stuff that sort of pops up when you approach big venues, event organizers, etc. Not even talking about the monopoly side of things, but just your average venue holder has so many more concerns regarding safety, regarding accounting, regarding insurance. If you show up and say, hey, I got this really cool demo that does all this cool on-chain stuff, they say, that's great, but I'm going to lose my venue very quickly. So that's kind of like the boring stuff that people don't like to think about, but that's luckily, I think it's sheer luck, where we did start out from the real world point. Say, okay, we know we have all this cool stuff, but we're going to need to hide it in the background, prove the benefits. And then once people are into it, or it's a bull cycle, or people are actually really excited again about this type of tech, or it varies per artist these days. Some are super into it, some are less so. Then we go into like full DJ mode with them, and they love it. But overall, we need to be speaking the Web2 language and just kind of Trojan horsing it until then, I'd say.
Yeah. But the really great thing about having all of this infrastructure done now and having it behind the scenes is we're not far away from on-chain payments, for example, right? So whereas you had to go to traditional PSPs and then, I can only serve Europe or the US or whatever, you have this on-chain payment rails where all of a sudden you can serve events globally without needing the 3% fee or whatever, plugging in different PSP accounts. So that sets that rail. And then you have all of the cool stuff like being able to drop tokens to them in a frictionless way. Maybe they even want to buy a meme coin, who knows, right? But the point is you just have that rails to actually natively bring them into the space and familiarize them with these kind of benefits. And I think ultimately the artist, it's all about that relationship with artists, right? If the artist is enthusiastic and wants to drop some music on chain or do a new kind of mint, then as a fan, you're going to be really incentivized to do so. It's not really us as a ticketing provider that's going to push you into it. It's more of the artist who brings you into that experience. So yeah.
What I find really interesting about the potential of this is that you could almost be in a situation where you are launching, well, not launching, but you could have an NFT collection that obviously already you have with the tickets themselves. So obviously those tickets are an NFT that's prescribed to, I mean, you know, kind of like you get stories of like, you know, I wish I had a ticket from like a Led Zeppelin concert in the 70s,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, and people pay a lot of money for that kind of stuff. And now you obviously have, you know, the digital aspect and how that is going to evolve. And I suppose the question here is, or more so the curiosity is like, how does that now, from a value proposition from you guys speaking to artists, like how about we do like a limited collection of NFTs that might be, I don't know, whatever it might be, you know, whether it's, you know, musical instruments or whatever, I don't know. But is that like an avenue that you guys have explored, and like, is it something that could be a thing for you guys in the future?
I think 100%. I mean, the first thing for us has always been to get the organizers or artists interested in making their NFT tickets unique. So like some killer use cases there is just, you know, you're recording footage from the event, actually add it as the ticket, you know, instead of having to send someone to Facebook to look at it, have it as that NFT format. So yeah, that can be stuff from pre-released music to a little animated signature to actual clips from the event. We worked with Dermot Kennedy, a really great Irish singer. He did like a surprise busk in Edinburgh where anyone who grabbed a ticket then had like pre-released music as this kind of cool collectible. But then, we haven't really, to be honest, like we haven't really seen artists or organizers then use their NFT tickets to drop a new collection. Like I really think that'll happen. I think 100% you're on the money there, where I think it's more of just the problem, I think, really is 99% of an artist or organizer's community exists on Web2 rails right now, right? Like Instagram or wherever it may be. And they feel like it's quite a lot of effort to then build this Web3 community, even though it's just like, say, attendees that'll be there to begin with. But you're definitely seeing the flip, right? When you see stuff like Farcaster and Warpcast and all of these really accessible social media platforms, it's only a matter of time, and also even minting on Zora or wherever it may be. It's really only a matter of time, to be honest, until an artist or organizer goes, everyone who's been to this event, okay, you get access into, like a new mint or whatever it may be. And I just think it's so cool as well. As you mentioned, right, with like the Led Zeppelin, you can reward those people. Even if you're an artist and 10 years down the line, you want to look back to your first event, this is the only way to do it. You know, you can't really phone up people in an old diary book of like, hey, you had this physical ticket, you know. But on chain, it's just easy. You have a contract address, which I hope eventually gets abstracted away, by the way. But you have the smart contract address, you plug it in, then you just communicate, you've been to one of these events, jump on in and get this benefit. So it's going to be so exciting, really, just seeing all the cool stuff that pops up.
It takes a little guidance is also the honest answer, because I think a lot of organizations and artists currently still need a little bit of hand holding and sort of shown the pathway. Which is fine, makes sense. They're busy doing other stuff. So we spend a lot of time sort of helping them understand what the potential is, because there's a gap that usually I don't think they're very active in between shows, where there's like, here's a big tour and then here's a big tour. And we're trying to say the first tour that you've done has given you a lot of tools to actually make the second tour or show or whatever so much easier. You can really compound all your audiences and make it one big, very active group. But it takes a little effort. I think a good example of sports is so great for me, because the fandom is so strong. So sports fans are usually very much game to try out stuff or to have an extra badge of honor or whatever to sort of show support. So last year. We did the Formula One stop here in the Netherlands in Zandvoort. We delivered really cool collectibles. I think ticket link collectibles just in app to 23,000 race fans on the day of the race. I think it's really cool to see what we can now do with all those 23,000 collectibles that are still in the hands of those fans this year for the new race. What we can unlock for them, what type of cool stuff we can build around the experience of the race weekend. Sky's the limit there, I think. I'm really looking forward to that.
I mean, at the end of the day, what it is it really is an intangible, tangible connection with an audience. I know that sounds completely ridiculous, but it's like you now have access to. It's really is like the key to a door, and it's like, okay, well, I can open this door and I can provide value that doesn't necessarily like give me short-term benefits, but in the long term there'll be benefit that will land up being a benefit to both parties. And I think we don't have enough of that. Like at the moment, it's only about, you know, whether the protocol can make a whole lot of money or the business can make a whole lot of money. But here you have an opportunity to almost take that Web3 mindset. So if you had to ask me what is the single most important thing in Web3, it's community. But these communities already exist in Web2. They've got their they've got support for their artists, whatever the case is. Now all you're doing is you're turning it up a dial, right? And you're saying, okay, well, we can actually give you something as opposed to just take your money for a ticket. We can actually give you something back. And you don't have to go and climb stairs and earn points. It's just while you earn the NFT.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. I think it's the perfect way to do it is through this sort of existing community base, but we're trying to level it up, I guess, and just introduce. Yeah, I think disrupt is kind of a nasty word, of course, but and I don't even think that should be the focus. I don't think we should be setting out to change everything. I should be sort of looking at ways to sort of supplement or kind of streamline the existing. We're still going to go to concerts. People are still going to do that. Artists are going to perform. We don't need to sort of upheave everything drastically, but there are serious pain points that we can improve, which we're very close to being able to improve. I think that sort of mindset maybe helps scope things a little bit better and make things a little bit more realistic, which is a double-edged sword for us also in the past, because we have a lot of we have quite a big track record also, just in terms of adoption, and we've been around the block a few times. But that also makes us terribly unsexy in the Web3 space and sort of the optics. We hear all sorts of pretty funny stuff, but we're kind of like the dinosaurs and like the nerdy kids who are like, we're doing this already. And I was like, yeah, but it's so real. It's so boring. It's like, okay, people would rather hear some crazy projections and vaporware and imagine if this, which is fine. And we can maybe float somewhere in the middle. But at the end of the day, I think we'd rather really do something and improve the average lives of folks going to shows and putting on performances and doing that. So I think we're pretty comfortable there.
Well, it's very simple, right? It's a business. What is the nature of a business? The nature of the business is to create revenue, take profits, employ people, grow the business, come up with new ideas, keep growing. And that's what you guys are doing, right? So if people think that's boring, guess what? Guess what? That's what business is, and it's like, and I don't actually think it's boring. I think what you guys are doing, it's pretty cool. It's like it's around an entertainment industry. And then you get to expand on this idea. Surely it's like you've shown that there's expansion. You're making this whole process really interesting. How do we get people to engage? That's what it's actually all about. It's not just about the innovation. I think it's about the innovation in getting people to use your product. That's what you guys are doing. The biggest challenge right now from Web2 to Web3 is how do you get people to onboard in the space without them even realizing that they're doing it? You guys are doing that in a practical sense. So if you, who's listening to this, think that's boring, kindly go and find me a protocol that's doing this seamlessly. That isn't boring, and let's have an interview and bring me on, and bring you on. You know, like, I mean, it's just a practical thing. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. How do you get people involved? And this is how you do it. You know, there's a couple of guys who are doing really cool stuff around, you know, where the CPU on your device lands up being kind of like your private key, which is innovation in itself, and that's interesting. And you know, it's kind of like that's what we need to be seeing right now, is like seamless onboarding, attracting people with ideas where there's benefit around owning an NFT, and then they'll start getting curious about other aspects of Web3, as opposed to just a bunch of DJs buying meme coins.
Yeah, you said it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Like, again, with having all of the wallets abstracted, but you can still tangibly show it, you know, you can quite literally sell your ticket on the secondary market, you get that revenue on chain in a wallet. And obviously you name it more friendly, of course, for the end user. But from there, it's endless in terms of what you can actually drop to them. Like a cool aspect for us is always Web3 events, right? Because that allows us to push the boat, see what actually works in event space, and kind of find ways to dial it back down for Web2 events. So I think a great example, we did Med Amsterdam here, both last year and the year before. And for them, it's like, hey, you've got this Snapchat digital like hoodie that you've got that we just airdrop directly to your ticket. And oh, by the way, did you go to NFT Paris this year? Well, those tickets are also on chain. So we can just verify it and give you a discount to Med Amsterdam this year. So you also see this weird like cross-marketing potential between events and event organizers, where like traditionally we've been at roundtables at like IFF in London, which is like the big ticketing. And it's like, oh yeah, I want to hold my data. I'm not going to tell you who my attendees are. That's my moat. It's so like, it's so Web 2, right? In terms of the thinking. And we want to go, no. Open it all up. It will benefit you. Like, you'll be able to cross market to a whole new audience. You'll be able to drop discounts, know all of the trends as well. Like, that's the cool thing about our Explorer. You can quite literally see different trends around different parts of Europe, right? Obviously when we get bigger, that's when it gets juicy. But you can even see stuff like, okay, cool artists that are on the rise that are now selling out Ziggo Dome events that wasn't possible like a year ago. So yeah, it's really fun, to be honest. From that standpoint.
It is.
And then from a brand perspective, like, we also want to be a lot sexier just in terms of it's event content, right? Like, if people are having the time of their lives, that's typically what does best for us as well in the Web3 space. Like, here's this giant stadium of people having the time of their lives, and oh, by the way, they've all got wallets and NFTs. So yeah, we're finding ways to peel back the dinosaur and kind of really make it more cool for Web3 folk. But
yeah, I mean, I think also that data that you guys have available, it seems like your competitors probably use it, and they think they kind of like getting it. They think they're kind of like, oh, they're giving us all this information, but they haven't quite understood our bet.
Please do. We're really, the more that happens, the better. Like, also within the Web3 space, which is of course actually a tiny bubble if you compare it to like the whole industry. We're really, like, I like to say, like, radically like non-tribal. Like, anyone that's working in this direction, like, we will happily sort of collaborate with or figure stuff out or compare notes. Like, it's such a tiny fraction. Like, if for this use case to really take off and put a dent into the traditional industry, we should really all be going at it together. Everyone who feels that there's value in this, let's figure it out, and let's do cool shit together, basically. And let's get some use cases off the ground, because we need to be doing it. And there's plenty of behemoths out there that are ripe for disrupting a little bit, or just at least steering them in the right direction. If the legal system is not going to do it, we can do it in really cool ways, just from behind our computers.
And then, like, we haven't even really touched upon the community development aspect as well, right? Because you have all of this data, we have a subgraph, right? And we've had community members just build dashboards over a month or whatever, showing new events that pop up, ticketing activity, whatever it may be. And now that's even progressed to them creating their own event platforms where they can issue tickets on chain, do all of the scanning, and add their own revenue streams. So, like, that's a big key focus for us as well, actually, is not only is this data available, but here's how you can use it, build your own tools, actually build your own ticketing systems or event aggregators or whatever it may be. And that's kind of how the DAO also really fuels that, right? So you actually have cash flow coming into the DAO from tickets being sold. Let's use that as a goal to bring more tickets on chain, right? To actually fund cool projects of people wanting to build new ticketing systems or out of the box ideas. And yeah, it's kind of a cool cycle, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether this is an easy question to answer, like, or should I say, if it's not a long one to answer, but what do you guys believe is your edge in this space right now? And you can answer the obvious one. I don't know, but I think it isn't really that obvious.
So I think our edge business-wise is our track record and knowing the sort of the boring side of the business. And we've been speaking to big event organizers, big sports clubs for 8 years. So we really understand what they want and need and what they really do not want, which is maybe more important. So I think that understanding and having that experience under our belt and having that sort of, I think, realistic worldview is probably a kind of a weird sort of morphed superpower, and allows us to actually close deals and get stuff done at the end of the day. But that's the boring answer. I think Cole is going to give you a way cool.
I'm going to go completely other angle here. I'm going to go, it's the blockchain, right?
There we go.
Like, there are so many people in the ticketing and event space who have no idea about the power of the blockchain. Just in terms of even the interoperability. You put a ticket on chain, you can sell it on Magic Eden, OpenSea, through your own primary marketplace. It's everywhere, both from a revenue, like enforceable royalties, right, on the smart contract level, connecting with fans, raising financing. It's an amalgamation of everything that kind of spreads across platform. And I think so many like ticketeers and organizers are so used to, again, that siloed model. It's just, the internet's evolving, right? We see how quickly things spread on chain, and it's that collaborative mindset that kind of makes a difference. And for us, if we can put ticketing inventory out there and have, right now it's in our own event financing pools, but it could quite easily go onto Maple, onto other event financing platforms that have way deeper liquidity than us. They can add their own revenue streams, their own interest. It's this composability of a ticket that you just simply can't do in the Web2 space. Even from like selling a ticket perspective, usually you have to have like a link, and that link will time out in 10 minutes or whatever it may be. And it's only the primary ticketeer who's selling it. With like on chain, anyone could sell tickets and add their own revenue stream and help artists and organizers. So I really think the edge is the blockchain, and the fact we've been around for so long, as Oliver mentioned, and have that.
This is the correct answer. You can cut my answer. This is what it should have been.
No, both like, that's the beauty. Both of them work together for sure.
I think maybe a third one, or a rephrased version of mine, is that also maybe our flexibility is a big one, because these ticketing companies and everyone in the industry is pretty archaic. It's been around for a while, the biggest ones. They're not that flexible. They have a really big tech stack. They have a lot of dependence and things going on that they can maybe do a pilot here or there, but it won't be much more than a press release most of the time. So for true disruption, I think we are positioned well where we can move quickly and actually deliver on stuff, which is a nice to have.
And tied to that, complacency as well. Like, if you've got it good, why are you looking the gift? How do you say it? The gift horse in the mouth, right? Like, they've had a moat for 40 years. Why the hell would they disrupt themselves? And I think it's very true with a lot of industries, right? That's also kind of true.
Well, there's that saying, there'll always be someone faster and stronger than you, and clearly. Yeah, wonderful answers, guys. I mean, it really does encapsulate what it is that you guys are doing. I think if we just took those answers, it kind of summarizes a lot of what it is that you guys are doing, if not everything. And I think like you said at the start, the proof is in the pudding. You guys have done the mileage, and I love the fact that you are actually a bunch of degens. It's very obvious. who obviously see the value in the space, and it's really cool that you are taking it on. And it's great to see a business taking it on, and I hope you beat everyone at this game, because I think this is what we need to be seeing more of in this space. we talk about what real world problems does Web3 solve, and clearly this is a huge solution. And it's great to be able to chat to you guys about it. And I think we're coming towards the top of the hour. It's been really cool, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that for the sake of it. It's been really
Likewise.
It's been really cool to tap into what it is that you guys are doing, and I think it's fantastic, and look forward to seeing how this develops, and I really hope that people pay attention and, more importantly, appreciate what you guys are doing. So well done.
Pleasure.
Man.
Thank you, honestly. It's fun to talk about it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. It's tangible. We're sitting at opposite ends of the world, and it's I can feel it. It's great. I mean, you guys clearly are in it for the win, and I'm pretty sure that if you carry on, you will. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. And if you are listening in, please like and subscribe, and go and find the Open Ticket guys and follow them on Twitter. We'll leave the links below in the video. And if you are listening to the show on podcast, go and give the guys some support. Check out what they're doing. Thanks everyone for joining us. Once again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.
All right, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on for next time. See ya.